Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series. So today we'll be solving some practice problems that are related to the topic transportation. So in the previous lectures we have studied about the transportation in higher plants, in which we studied about the essence of the sap, and we studied about the vascularization system, we studied about the transpirational cohesion theory, and then in transportation of animals, we studied about the blood, what are the types of the blood, all right. And then we also studied about the structure of the heart. And in detail, structure of the heart will be studying a little bit more in the upcoming lectures. So in this lecture, we'll be solving the objective type questions. Okay. So let's start with the first question. So this question is about the osmosis. All right, so what is osmosis? So we have studied that the transport of the water in the plants takes place with the help of the process known as osmosis. Now osmosis, what happened in osmosis? So in osmosis, you have to first remember, there is the movement of the solvent molecules and not the solute. The solvent usually is in liquid form. So you can say water is the solvent. So there is movement of the water in osmosis. Okay. And second condition that is required, there should be a concentration gradient again. Okay. So there is a movement of the solvent molecules from a region of low concentration of solute towards the higher concentration of the solute. So it is opposite of, you can say, diffusion. In diffusion, what happens? There is a movement of the solvent, and there is a movement of the solute molecules from the region of higher concentration of solute to the region of lower concentration of solute. Okay. So in other terms, we can also say that if we talk here, we were talking about the solute. So in terms of solvent, we can say from the higher concentration of the solvent to the lower concentration of solvent. Okay, so this is similar to diffusion, but here we are using the term solvent and not solute. So these are the conditions required for osmosis. Apart from this, osmosis takes place, okay, in the presence of a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, so cells have the plasma membrane, and that plasma membrane acts as a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, now let's have a look at the options here. So first option is the solute particles move from higher concentration to the lower concentration. So here they are saying solute particles. So we can reject this because in osmosis there is movement of the solvent particles. Next is solvent particles move from the higher water potential to lower water potential. Okay, or you can say movement of the solvent particles from a higher concentration of the solvent to the lower concentration of the solvent. So here solvent is water. So you can say movement of the solvent particles from the higher concentration of the water to the lower concentration of the water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane. I've told you semi-permeable membrane is also required for the osmosis to take place. The next question is solute particles from higher concentration to lower concentration through a again solute particles it is saying. All right. Now option number D is the solvent particles from the lower water potential to the higher water potential. So this is also not correct. So what should be the answer here? Option B is the correct answer here. It is the movement of the solvent particles from higher water potential to lower water potential through a semi-permeable membrane. All right, this is clear. Now, what is water potential? How can you define water potential? Water potential is the measure of the concentration of free water molecules, or you can also say the potential energy of the water molecules, all right, present in the water. Now, the water potential for pure water is zero. Whenever you add a solute particles to it, then the water potential becomes negative. Okay, so this is osmosis, movement of the solvent particles from a region of higher water potential, or you can say higher concentration of the water molecules, to a region of lower concentration of the water molecules. Okay, to lower, from higher to lower. All right, this is clear. Now let's move on to the next question. Next question is, the ultimate cause for the movement of water against the gravity in a tree is. All right, so we have already studied this in the transpirational pull theory, also known as the transpirational cohesion theory. So here, some of the forces were applying. So one of the forces was the transpirational pull, and other force was the cohesion. So this cohesion helped in the formation of a continuous column of the water that was pulled up by the transpiration. Okay, by the transpirational pull generated by the transpiration. Okay, so these are the options. Osmosis, we have already discussed what is osmosis. Next is transpiration. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor. Okay, this is known as transpiration. All right. Now, because of this transpiration, a transpirational pull is generated. Okay. A transpirational pull is generated, which helps in the ascent of the sap. Okay, so this was the transpirational cohesion theory, and in this what happens, the continuous column of water that is formed due to the cohesive and the adhesive forces that are pulled with the help of transpirational pull that is generated due to transpiration. Next is imbibition. Imbibition is the absorption of the water molecules by the solid surfaces. How can you define imbibition? It is the absorption, or you can say adsorption, not absorption. We can say adsorption here. So in case of solids, we use the word adsorption. Somewhere it is written absorption also, of the water by the solid, or you can say by the surface of the solid material. So it is at the surface. That's why surface term is very important. Adsorption of the water by the surface of the solid material. Okay. Now example can be imbibition of water by the seeds. So whenever you soak the seeds in water, they get swelled up. That is an example of the imbibition. Okay, swelling of the seeds which are kept in the water. Now photosynthesis. The photosynthesis is the conversion of the light energy into chemical energy. This you already know. What happens in the photosynthesis? The carbon dioxide and it combines with the water and it gives rise to the carbohydrate molecule, which is glucose, and in this process oxygen is also released. Okay, so it is the conversion of light energy into chemical energy. Here what happens? Carbon dioxide, it mixes with the water. Okay, so this is the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and glucose is formed. Along with this, oxygen is evolved, and some water is also formed. So this is the equation. So this is not the balanced equation, but this is what happens here. These are the substrate and these are the products. Okay, this is clear. So here you can say, if you balance it, it will be like this: 6O2 and 6H2O. Okay, now what should be the answer to this question? Transpiration. So transpiration, it generates the transpirational pull, which helps in the uptake of the continuous column of water that is generated due to the cohesive and the adhesive forces. Now let's move on to the next question here. Now, which one of the following is connected with the transport of the water in plants? Let's have a look at the options: phloem, xylem, epidermis, and cambium. So phloem, we know, is involved in the transportation of the organic substances. What are the organic substances? The food that is produced. The phloem, what are the components of the phloem? So it is made up of the sieve tubes, companion cells. So these are the living cells present in the phloem. Apart from these, phloem fiber and phloem parenchyma is also present. Phloem fiber, and the last one is phloem parenchyma. Okay, then xylem. Xylem helps in the transportation of the water, and along with water, minerals, nutrients, and salts are also transported. So this takes place with the help of the xylem. Now, what are the components of the xylem? These are tracheids. Then we have the vessels. Then we have the xylem fibers. So these xylem fibers gives the mechanical support to the plant. And then we have the xylem parenchyma, which stores the food material. So these parenchyma cells stores the food material. Epidermis, it is the uppermost layer. Okay, like if you talk about the leaf, the uppermost layer is known as the epidermis, which consists of the stomata in case of leaf. And what is cambium? Cambium is you can say, a layer of cells which gives rise to the unspecialized cells. Okay, this is known as the cambium. Okay, so it consists of meristematic cell and it gives rise to unspecialized cells. Okay, so these unspecialized cells will then differentiate and then become specialized, and then they will do specialized function. So what should be the answer to this question? Xylem. So xylem helps in the transport of the water across the plant. Now, which of the following contributes most to the transport of water from the ground to the leaves of the tall tree? Okay, we're talking about the tall tree here. How the essence or the transport of water takes place from the ground to the tall tree. So there are a lot of forces. Okay, all these forces combine and they help in the essence of the sap. Okay, so first let's have a look at the options. First is the breakdown of the ATP. So breakdown of the ATP, it releases energy. Okay, but the uptake of the water is a passive process. There is no energy required. So no energy is required for the uptake of water. That's why this option is incorrect. Clear? So ATP is broken down to ADP and inorganic phosphate. And in this process, energy is released. But the uptake of water is passive process. There is no energy required. Next is the capillary rise of the water. So these capillary rise, okay, it helps in the uptake of the water, but till roots only. So this force, or you can say the capillary action, transport the water till from the ground till the roots only. So water now will reach the roots with the help of capillary action. Next is the cohesion of water and the transpirational pull. Now, cohesion of water and transpirational pull, we have already studied. We'll discuss about this. Next is the root pressure. Now, what is root pressure? Root pressure is the pressure generated in the roots or pressure developed in the roots, okay, when the water enters the root, okay, by the entry of water in the roots. This is known as the root pressure. The root pressure is also important, but root pressure is not enough to transport the water to the leaves of a tall tree. So it can only transfer the water till the stem, from ground to the stem only. Okay. And option number C should be the correct answer here then. Cohesion of water and the transpirational pull. This helps in the uptake of water or transport of water in tall trees. So what is cohesion? Cohesion is the forces between the similar molecules. So it between similar molecules. There are some other forces which are known as the adhesive forces. So these adhesive forces are between dissimilar molecules, such as water and the wall of the vessels. Okay. So this cohesion force is between the similar molecules such as water and water. So water and forces between water and the water. Okay. Transpirational pull, we already know it is generated, okay, with the help of the transpiration. So we have already studied. So if this was a mesophyll cell and there is one more mesophyll cell. So here, due to the transpiration, the cell sap here, we have already discussed in the previous lecture. Here, the cell sap will become concentrated. Why it will become concentrated? Because of the loss of water due to transpiration. Now what will happen? This cell will then suck the water from the adjoining cell. So these are the mesophyll cells. So these are the mesophyll cells. Now this cell is connected to the xylem. So in the end, this cell will, okay, suck the water from the xylem. Okay, and this tension is then, transferred to the roots. This is known as the transpirational pull, and because of that tension, transpirational pull is generated. Now I was talking about the cohesive force. There are another force known as adhesive force, also known as adhesion. So this force is between the dissimilar molecules such as water and the walls of the vessel. All right, clear? Now let's move on to the next question. The process of transpiration in plants help in. Okay, let's have a look at the option. Opening of the stomata, absorption of the carbon dioxide, upward conduction of water, and absorption of oxygen from the atmosphere. So transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor. So what it will help? Let's directly go to the answer here. It helps in the upward conduction of the water. Okay, this we have already seen in the previous question also. how the uptake of water or the essence of water takes place. So along with the water, the minerals, salts and vitamins are also transported across the plant. Okay, so we know during transpiration, the stomata will open. Okay, so stomata, it opens during the transpiration. And if the stomata opens, then what will happen? Exchange of also gases takes place. Then what will happen? Exchange of gases will take place, but there is no absorption, you can say, of carbon dioxide or release of oxygen. Okay, so mainly what happens due to the transpiration, upward conduction of water and minerals takes place. Next question, opening and closing of stomata is due to, let's have a look at the options. Options are pressure of gases inside the leaf. So this is not correct, because due to the pressure of the gases, there will be exchange of gases. Okay. So pressure is related to gases. Effect of hormones. So hormones are also not involved in the opening and the closing of the stomata. Some hormones are involved in the opening of stomata, but closing of stomata is not regulated by hormones. Changes of the turgor pressure. So turgor pressure we have already seen. It is due to the entry of the water in the cells. How is turgor pressure developed? Due to the entry of the water inside these cells. So if this is a cell, this is the nucleus. So turgor pressure is outwards towards the wall. Okay. So the pressure applied outwards towards the cell wall, this is known as the turgor pressure. Okay, and this happens due to the entry of the water inside the cell, because the cell is now swollen, and it exerts a outward pressure, okay, towards the cell wall. So this should be the answer here. Now option D, their genetic constitution is also not related to it. Okay, so what should be the answer? Changes of the turgor pressure in the guard cell. This is the answer here. Now let's have a look at the explanation. Now when solute particles enter into the guard cell from the epidermal and the mesophyll cell, the osmotic potential. What is osmotic potential? It is due to the presence of the solute. So when solute particles it enters into the guard cell, then there is a change in the osmotic potential as well as the water potential. Okay, and then so if the solute will enter, then the osmotic potential and water potential will decrease. Now this establish a water potential gradient. So now because inside of the guard cells the solute is more, so the water will be less. So therefore the water will then come inside the guard cell. So this is known as endoosmosis. Okay. So this establishes a water potential gradient, prompting the water to flow towards the guard cell from the neighboring cell. Consequently, the guard cell become turgid, they swell in size and facilitate the stomatal opening. Now, as the solute level decrease within the guard cell, the water will exit now due to the process known as exoosmosis. Okay, causing them to become flaccid, which result in the closure of the stomata. Okay, so what does it say? So if these are the guard cell, if the solute enters here into the guard cell from the epidermal and the mesophyll cell, then inside the cell what will happen? Here there will be a decrease in the water potential. Now you already know water travels from high water potential, and outside it is high water potential. Okay, so water will enter inside the guard cell and the guard cell will become turgid and the stomata will open. And then what will happen? If the reverse happen, then the water will come outside of the guard cell and this is known as exoosmosis and this will result in the closure of the stomata. The next question is, the carbohydrates synthesized in the leaves are transported through sieve tubes, most commonly in the form of, and the options are glucose, starch, sucrose and cellulose. Now, what is the answer? Sucrose is the answer here. So let's see the explanation. The green plant, they produce the sugars through photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis, oxygen is produced as a byproduct and the carbon dioxide is fixed into the sugars. Now, with glucose being the primary product, now glucose is then transformed into the sucrose and then it is transported through the sieve elements. Subsequently, the sucrose is then later on converted into starch for long-term storage in roots, seed and other vegetative plant. So, the storage product in, or you can say the storage product or the reserve product or the storage product in the plants is starch. Okay, so initially glucose is produced, which is converted into sucrose and then sucrose is transported. The next question is related to the human circulatory system. Now, in a closed circulatory system, the blood is completely enclosed within. Let's have a look at the answer. Sinuses, vessels, heart and skeleton. So here the answer is vessels. Alright, now let's have a look at the explanation. Now, in the closed circulatory system, blood remains entirely contained within the vessels. Okay, now this ensuring efficient transport throughout the body. The blood flows through the vessels under very high pressure, enabling it to reach all the body parts effectively. Now these vessels branch into the fine capillaries, facilitating the exchange of materials such as nutrients, gases, waste product, okay, between the blood and the tissues. So in a closed circulatory system, the blood flows within the vessels and this ensures very efficient transport of the blood that carries the nutrients, gases, waste product, okay, within the body. Okay, so answer is vessels. Now let's see what is the explanation for the incorrect option, why the other options are incorrect. So if we talk about the option A, sinuses. Now sinuses, it refers to the air-filled cavities within the skull. Now these cavities are situated behind the forehead, nasal bones, cheeks and the eyes. Okay, so this is not the correct answer here. Option number C, why it is not correct? Because heart is a muscular organ. It is required for the pumping of the blood, which is primarily composed of the cardiac muscle. Now its main function is to propel the blood through the blood vessels to reach all parts of the body. The main role of the heart is to pump the blood. Okay. Now option D, why it is not correct? Because the skeleton, a skeleton is a framework comprising bones that provides structural support to the body. So skeleton, we already know there are a lot of bones in the body, around 206 bones in the body, and they provide structural support to the body. Okay, so this is clear. Now next question is, an artery is the vessel that carries blood, okay, with high concentration of oxygen, with high concentration of carbon dioxide away from the heart, and option D is both A and C. So here the answer is option D, both A and C. Now arteries, you know what are arteries? Arteries are the robust muscular blood vessels that transport oxygen rich blood from the heart to the various parts of the body. That's why option D, both A and C, they are correct. So arteries, they are involved in the transport of the oxygenated blood. Okay, and it carries blood from the heart to the various parts of the body. Now let's start with the next question. So next question is, the walls are found in the veins to check the backflow of the blood flowing under. So the veins, they consist of the walls, and the walls, they prevent the backflow of the blood. Now they are asking that whether the pressure in the veins, whether it is low, whether it is high, whether there is no pressure, or it is under the regulation, or it depends on the atmospheric pressure. So option D is not correct. Why? Because the pressure in the veins is not related to the atmospheric pressure. It is different from that. No pressure is also not correct, because the veins, they have some pressure, and because of this pressure there is transport of the materials also, and there is transport of the blood also. Now we have to select from the option A and B, whether it is low or whether it is high. So walls, they prevent the backflow of the blood, means the pressure should be low. Okay. So what should be the answer here? Low pressure. Low pressure is the answer here. In the veins, the pressure is low. Now what is the explanation here? Now the veins are the blood vessels with thin walls. So they have very thin walls. That's why the pressure also here is very low. So these veins, they return the blood from the body to the heart. So veins, they carry deoxygenated blood. Okay. They carry deoxygenated blood. From where? From the body parts. The body part use the oxygen, and the deoxygenated blood is returned from the body to the heart. Now, these veins, they are larger, and then they can hold more blood compared to the arteries. Now, the veins typically carry deoxygenated blood with low pressure, okay, through their wide lumen. So their lumen is very wide. That's why the pressure is very low. Now the flow of the blood in the veins is very slow and steady, and to prevent the backflow of the blood, veins are equipped with walls. Okay, so the answer to this question is low pressure. So in veins we have the low pressure, and walls are present to prevent the backflow of the blood. This is clear. So this was the end of this session. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be discussing some of the other topics in the next lectures, and then again we'll be solving some of the multiple choice questions in the upcoming lectures. Thank you very much for listening.